Hello, my name is Alyssa Compton, and this is my Cultural Influences PowerPoint. So, for culture, I found this definition. It says culture is the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. My thesis statement is that culture plays a part in our daily life despite us acknowledging it. Culture is influenced by our background and beliefs. Culture can be influenced by many different factors such as location, family size, and friend groups. Culture is a naturally inherited factor from parts of our life. So, first thing I want to talk about is the Bronfenberg's theory. So it's a theory that children's culture is impacted from their environment. It includes 5 different systems: the microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and chronosystem. And then over on this side, I included a diagram of each system and how they affect the child. So a couple things that impact culture. The belief of education. So I included some examples here. So Korea and Japan let children nap during school. Wales lessens playgrounds regulations, and Iran has same-sex schools. Individualist or collective culture. So collective culture is like working as a group. You're encouraged to do what's best for society. Individualist culture is self-reliant, independent, and unique, and that's more of American culture. Behaviors that influence culture. Some Americans are considered rude in other cultures. So things like tipping, sitting in the back of the cab, or keeping your shoes on are considered rude in other cultures. Some parenting styles that influence culture. Babies in Denmark stay outside in their strollers while parents shop. Finland kids get frequent breaks from school. Kids in Italy drink wine with their meals. And Swedish kids aren't spanked. It's actually a law there that they can't be spanked. Some different learning styles. People of similar culture exhibit similar learning patterns. So people from American culture versus Japanese culture, they found that they will exhibit different learning patterns. Some examples are Native Americans prefer the use of imagery. Americans value independence, analytical thinking, objectivity, and accuracy. Different groups that influence culture. So belonging to a group influences who you hang out with, such as clubs or political groups. Some different foods. So whatever location you're in can influence what kind of food you eat. Japanese culture is rich in fish just because Japan is located in an area where fish is really abundant. Ranch in the Midwest. So if you're born in the Midwest, you've likely had ranch or currently own a lot of ranch. Indian culture and curry is something that is seen a lot of. Different languages. So wherever you're born, what language you speak can influence what kind of culture you grow up in. So for Russians, they have a tense and a gender for every word. Another example is Spanish has ing, el, or la for the gender of a word, and el or la is like the. Socioeconomic status can change who you interact with. People from lower classes depend more on those around them versus people from higher classes. Time orientation. So past-oriented cultures like India, trains can be hours late and people will have no problems. They'll go about their day versus like American culture. That would be a huge setback for us. Some future-oriented cultures are American and Japanese were the two most future-oriented. And it just means that we're looking towards making improvements constantly. Health. So interesting thing is with health, looking at different aspects of it. So such things such as death. Cultures sometimes look at death as being a rebirth. Canadian medicine versus our medicine. I read an article about how Canadian medicine is very different even from American medicine, even though we're both modern medicine, because they have universal health care. So just because if you grew up in Canada, it was saying that you're more likely to be seen for different types, like your treatment is likely to be more different than American, like if you were to go to American healthcare. Some illness, like ways to treat illness, we have Western medicine. Some places use acupuncture or yoga. Sleep. I read another article that said that bedtime is under the control of society. So whatever accepted time, it's normal to go to bed. So Singapore and Japan get the least amount of sleep. On average, that's 7 hours and 24 minutes a night. Versus the Netherlands get the most amount of sleep, and that's an average of 8 hours and 12 minutes a night. Some spiritual beliefs. I thought this was interesting that they affect a person's judgment and values. So, like, example, Muslims won't eat pork and Buddhists are vegetarian. Another thing is it can affect a person's personal habits, such as going to church on Sunday. Friendships. So friend groups can influence culture just because they are who you hang out with, and your values are likely to be similar to their values. So one thing I found that post-Soviet cultures are very welcoming. So you're likely, if you live in that culture, you're more likely to have a lot more friends. Another thing I found interesting, and I guess I never thought of this as an American, but if we normally sometimes refer to our acquaintances as friends, even though we really don't know them. So overall, my reflection is that Americans rich in many different cultures. Being an American means we're influenced by many different cultures on a daily basis, despite where we live. Even living in the Midwest, we see a variety of different cultures of people, and culture is something that influences our growth and belief from a young age. And then these are my references.